Hello, everybody. I'm Zenith, and welcome back to the Disney debate, where Kat Macberrie, Doug Macberrie, and I discuss Disney products and Disney in general. And today, once again, we are joined as we continue this wondrous 101 Dalmatian Marathon. There's so many Dalmatians. If you add them all together, I think there's like 500 Dalmatians and everything that we're talking about in this marathon. But before we get into how many dogs there are, how's it going, Kat?
I think I'm coming down with something. I'm seeing spots. Spots! Oh, spots! But otherwise, I'm doing good. I'm very happy because we got to watch a fairly good sequel today. Yay!
And Mr. Doug, Mr. Baldy Pants Macberrie, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Mr. Fatty McFatpants. And I am also looking forward to our endeavor today, as this was like the first time in a number of years that I've actually watched this sequel. So I was excited.
Excited?
Excited!
I think the first thing to discuss, much like with many of the sequels we've discussed in the past, is that Disney does not have the best track record with sequels. They are good at producing films, but when it comes to sequels, a lot of the times they don't have the same luster. Now, there are some sequels that are actually better than the original films. And in some cases, like in cases like Aladdin 3, or, some of the other Disney sequels that actually expound upon things. Like, I thought Bambi 2 was actually really good, and Cinderella 3 was probably the best Disney sequel we've seen up until this point. But 101 Dalmatians 2 actually improves upon the original film in so many ways, much like Cinderella 3, to the point where I'm kind of conflicted as to which is better. And I think this is one of the best Disney sequels. Granted, we haven't gotten to the truly bad ones in the future. We're still trapped in the 60s, but of the stuff that we've seen, I think this is top quality. Would you agree there, Doug?
Yeah, I definitely think this is a good one, especially considering a lot of the other sequels that we've seen, like Disney Toons just did not put their A game into. But then this one comes along and like you can tell they actually are trying with this one. Like they're trying to imitate the art style. They're trying to get the characters pretty, close. They're even trying to like give you sort of some closure on the first movie with some of the stuff that they left in question. So yeah, definitely I think this was one of the better sequels.
And would you agree with that, Kat?
Oh, most definitely. And trust me, I've seen pretty much all of the sequels. This one definitely stands out as among, being among, I would say, the better to tolerate. Like, it's not perfect, grant you, but it's still really good compared to other shite that we're going to have to get to later down the line.
Mm-hmm. So, I think the first thing to note here is that this actually answers a couple of our questions that we voiced at the end of our last podcast. Namely, what happened with Cruella de Vil? Why wasn't anyone put into jail? Because at the end of the film, they're scot-free. Nothing happens to them. They aren't killed. They aren't jailed in that film. Well, we start this film where basically it's all the Dalmatians, Pongo Perdita, and Anita and Roger. They're all traveling out to the new plantation that they said they were going to go to. And then afterwards, we cut to Cruella de Vil, who has a restraining order, and she is not allowed in any fur shop or anywhere else. Like, granted, I'm kind of surprised that she was just given a restraining order, but she's rich, so I can kind of understand that. And the film also pokes fun at that because Jasper and Horace are in jail, and they're lamenting the fact that they're the ones that got slapped with everything when they didn't technically do anything other than kidnapping. I mean, attempted murder, yes, but that was more Cruella.
Yes and no. I mean, they were gonna kill the puppies, remember, to skin them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of,
Yeah.
like, actually doing the crime, like I said, they were the more active things, because they were the thugs, and Cruella was just the mastermind behind it. But then again, proving you're the mastermind is, like, sort of a hard thing to do legally, so hence why she probably got a lighter sentence.
Yeah, but I do like that they address like these things. Like this as a true sequel, it takes place right where the first film left off. It answers several questions right off the bat, and I think it does a great job of delving into some of these characters that we really didn't get much of before. The film centers around two different stories. The first part is Patch. He feels left out because there's 99 puppies and he's just one of them, and he feels like, back when there was 15 of them, he stood out, but now that there's 99, like, he gets pushed around, he doesn't, he doesn't feel like he matters, and so when he sees this commercial for Thunderbolt is having these auditions. If you can have like this, if you have a bark worthy of Thunderbolt, then you can star in one of the shows. And so his whole quest is to go see Thunderbolt and prove himself. On the other side of the coin, we have Cruella de Vil, and it's a really great story about this character. It's a character-driven plot where Cruella de Vil shows that she has some sort of sickness. Like, even when she can't be around the puppies, she just wants to see spots. Like, she sees spots everywhere. She's obsessed with them. And when she goes into an art gallery and sees this artist, played by Martin Short, and he's painting all these spots, she's like, I want you to make me a painting. I'm going to cure my addiction to spots with art. And slowly she goes through, like, you really get to see kind of what makes her tick. And I think these two plots really work well together, and they combine in the end to create a very interesting climax. And we'll get to the specifics in a bit, but Doug, wouldn't you agree that this is actually, like, the way it improves upon the original is that it gives Cruella a much-needed character?
I mean, I'd say yes and no. It definitely, gives more of a look into her psyche, I guess. But I don't know, if there's much beyond that. Because I felt like she wasn't the most fleshed out character. You kind of knew what her deal was in the first movie. So, I mean, this isn't, all that much of a change. But on the other hand, it's also that, this is a new situation that she's in. Now she's actually, instead of being the oppressor, she's been oppressed to an extent. So now she's fallen on hard times and she's trying to get, back out of it. So in that case, yeah, I guess you do get a little more character, a little more information on her. But I'd say that's really about it.
I can kind of see that in a way. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to say that she's really any different of a character than she was before, but what I found interesting about this was that it brought Cruella in a new light, because in the first film, while she's a great villain, we never knew why she was the way she was. And I mean, sometimes that's a bad thing, knowing why. Sometimes the mystery is enough. But here in the original, like, there wasn't enough to her aside from the craziness and the menace. She just wanted to make fur coats because she liked furs. I think there was something missing that the sequel really addresses. Kat, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. Is that they do add a little more dimension to that? Because in the original, they kind of portray her as being just straight up evil. You know, it's like, oh, she's so evil, she's willing to kill puppies just for a coat. And it's like, to a degree, that's all you kind of need. Because some people are sick and demented like that. But you know, like sort of having the, oh, I want this exotic piece just because I can. But I do like how they explore that it is sort of like that it is sort of like a weird sickness, like obsession and everything, and that the spots kind of have a deeper meaning for her. Like when she's staring at the painting, which is just of one single solitary spot, and the artist is asking her, "Oh, what do you see when you look at it?" And she goes into this long like thing of saying like, "Oh, it's like it's evil and goodness, it's darkness and light, it's fine seeing that thing that's just out of reach," and it's like, holy shit. I think Corella missed her true calling here.
She should have been a poet
Yeah.
or a writer.
Or an art critic. But yeah, like I kind of liked it, and the fact that she was trying to deal with her illness through a healthy means, such as trying to create art. Like I like that. I thought it was pretty cool. Like granted, it goes in the direction you obviously think it's gonna go, but it's nice to see her, attempt to fix herself, even though it ultimately ends up enabling her in the end. So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did enjoy it, and Corella is actually I think a lot funnier in this version, just because of all the insane methods she goes through in order to like deal with her sickness, even though it ultimately ends up feeding it.
Mm. So let's discuss the A plot, and then we can go back to the B plot and then how they connect. But the A plot is where Patch goes to Thunderbolt, and he basically wants to prove himself. And Thunderbolt's sidekick, Little Lightning, tricks him into thinking that they're basically going to kill off his character and cancel the show because he's our secondary villain. He's jealous that he never gets the limelight, and he kind of sees Thunderbolt as this big jerk, which he kind of is at first. To be honest, I almost thought that Thunderbolt was going to be the villain for the first few minutes, and until we see where they go with it. But basically, this is kind of a hero redemption story where we have an actor who is kind of full of himself. Think, Captain Kirk. Basically, he is so into himself, so full of himself that he doesn't realize that he's being a jerk. And then over the course of the film, he shows Patch how to be a hero, and he actually stands up and becomes kind of a hero in his own right. And so it's more a journey for both Patch and Thunderbolt to becoming better people. And I think this part of the story is really compelling because Patch is just one puppy. Like he is capable, but he's very young, and so like he's also very naive. But he shows throughout like a lot of these climaxes that he can be a hero and save the day, and the stuff that he does to help out Thunderbolt, and then Thunderbolt in turn does to help him out, is actually really engaging. It's not a new storyline. Like we've seen this done before, but I think the way they executed this is quite well.
Yeah, honestly, like it does kind of go the predictable route, with the full of himself actor and everything, but it, on the one hand, it's weird because you would think that Thunderbolt would be really unlikable as a result, but the thing is, like, he kind of like believes himself truly to be a hero, which is kind of weird. Like, in a way, it kind of reminds me of like the movie Bolt, in that he does believe himself to be a super dog, except that Thunder actually does know he's an actor. It's just weird though because he actually can do these heroics. The problem is he has to be told how to do them. Like, it's a really weird dynamic that they have going in terms of that plot line.
He apparently can't do anything without a script.
Mm-hmm. Like, in a way, it kind of reminds me of like a male model. It's like, yeah, they look gorgeous and, they can do all these great poses and everything, but if like they don't have any direction, they don't know what the hell to do.
And then Patch comes in, and he's just like, oh, this is the part where you run, leap, and pounce, or this is the part where you sneak, fight, and do all this stuff. And so Patch actually has a couple of different things. Like, he knows the TV shows by heart, and he can direct him what to do and strategize, but he can also do the things that he's seen in the TV shows. And I'm like, I'm kind of impressed with Patch in this.
Yeah, nerd knowledge for the win.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So, the fact that nerd knowledge is the thing that saves the day, I think that in this modern day and age, I think this message is quite good. I think this might be the thing that changes it, because back in like the 90s, being a nerd was considered kind of a bad thing. It was kind of a label where you were just weird and no one liked you and you had nothing to contribute. And I think for a lot of people growing up who were into TV shows and anime and stuff like we were ostracized for that knowledge. But here it saves the day, and they really treat it as a heroic thing. And so I kind of have to applaud them for that angle.
Yeah, I mean, I know this was like 2002, so I mean, nerd culture was starting to become like a positive thing. It was starting to, make its way to the forefront. So this is kind of a transitional period, and I think this exemplifies that.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's a powerful thing. I think maybe that element is what really elevates the Thunderbolt thing, because like the problem with the plot is the liar revealed subplot. We've all seen this before, and even when this is well executed, it's not necessary here. It's like, I think from the start he should have said that he was an actor, because otherwise, like, there's a lot of stuff that really works about it. I like Thunderbolt. I like that he's not just a jerk, but he actually wants to help and be good. Like, he cares about people. And I like that they have this nerd subplot. So it's just like, there are good elements, but when we get to the liar revealed part, it sticks out, and it's over with far too quickly. It comes in, and then Patch just gets over it. It's Thunderbolt who's the one who's not getting over it until the end. And I'm like, we kind of could have done without it.
Well, I mean, it was kind of essential to his character, because while he does know he's an actor, on the other hand, he thinks he can also do anything. Like, keep in mind, he didn't realize, that he could experience pain while doing a stunt, or that he could possibly die. Like, that was something that just never crossed his mind, or he thought never could happen. And thinking himself invincible, and then once he realizes that no, he really is not, and that the whole reason he's been going through this is just to get himself more fame, I guess that kind of, shatters the illusion of how he saw himself. Hence why, he had to, took so long to compose himself, and then later decided to use the only talent he had to his abilities, when he goes into that whole dramatic speech at the end where he thinks that they're gonna kill him, and he has this heart attack or whatever, and is basically doing it just to distract him long enough for the puppies to escape. So, I mean, I don't see it, it's still an annoying, plot device, obviously, but here I think, in terms of his character, it is kind of needed.
I mean, it's executed better than I've seen it in the past. I don't like the plot. I just don't like that cliche. I don't like, I'm with the critic on this. I think there could have been something else, but I think for the most part it's done better here. And let's see. I was gonna say another thing that I liked about that was his acting, which is what saved the day. Actually fooled Little Lightning, who he knows what's going on, and it even fooled him. I was like, oh wow, you hammed it up so good that the villain kind of bought it. That's actually kind of funny.
Oh my god, Barry Bostwick, the voice of Thunder, he is an absolute treasure. Like, the way he's so over the top in this role, it works so well. It's like he's completely Shatnering it up, but it just works so goddamn well. Like, I'm honestly surprised, like, he's not in more, like, voice acting roles, because him as Thunder is just so perfect. And I love it. Like, I kept getting Major Calculon vibes from him, too. It's like, I must thank them for this acting talent.
It's like he took his Brad Majors role from Rocky Horror and dialed it up to 11.
Okay, so let's talk about the B plot next. So the B plot, as we said, it's about Cruella de Vil basically trying to recover through art. And so she meets up with Martin Short, and she commissions him to make this painting that she can, obsess over. A painting that is worthy of her obsession and that can kind of cure her and that she can talk about. And I kind of... What I don't understand is why she doesn't just go with the painting she saw in the first place, because that's the one she latched onto, that single dot, which is stupid because, like, it's just a dot. It's not art. But what they do in this, like, montage, they show him making all these different artworks. And to be honest, like, the stuff that they come up with really cool. Like, they have pointillism to make her face, and they like make sculptures and all this other stuff. And I really like this montage, but obviously none of it actually cures Cruella. And so she decides that she's going to use the puppies as her canvas.
Ugh.
Let's face it, she was always going to do that from the start.
Yeah, like, I at one point I was wondering, like, so does she want, like, does she want him to sort of, like, create a fur-like painting or something like that? Like, those paintings you could actually feel, or, like, it's so weird. Like, I'm not sure how to describe it, because on the one hand, yeah, like, she was so fascinated by this spotted art, and you think she'd be satisfied with more of it, but no, it's like, she's like, it has to be softer, it has to be furrier, you have to, like, wrap it around you, and I'm like, you just want another fucking fur coat. Like, this isn't helping you.
Yeah, it's not really a healthy outlet, unfortunately, and the good thing, though, is Martin Short wants nothing to do with it. He stands up to her, and he gets tied to his artwork as a result.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I actually liked Martin Short as the artist in this film. Like, normally, don't ask me why, for whatever reason, I just don't like Martin Short. I don't know if it's his voice, his demeanor, or whatever, but he's always annoyed the hell out of me in, like, most things that I've seen him in. But I actually did like him in this film. Like, the way he's portraying the artist in sort of like an Andy Warhol type fashion, and he's, like, doing an accent and is being so, like, dramatic with the way he speaks. Like, it actually comes off as legitimately funny. So, yeah, I actually can say there's something with Martin Short in it that I like. Although I really do wish his testicles would drop already, because his voice, like, when it cracks, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, I really do like Martin Short in this, and I think he has a really great performance. I think he's funny, he's over the top, but he's actually a good person. And it's like, he doesn't know Cruella's evil. All he knows is that she wants art, and she quote-unquote understands his artwork, and so, like, he's going to make the paintings. And so, like, he's kind of an understandable villain that turns hero, and then he has the most amazing moment later on in the film where the two plots intersect. So the puppies get away, Martin Short is still tied up, but Thunderbolt unties him, and he brings Thunderbolt to go save the day. And so Thunderbolt is, like, appears in the nick of time on the top of a car. He does his signature bark, and then right behind him, it zooms into Martin Short in a car doing the thumbs up.
Yeah, it's like they have, like, a weird moment where Thunder breaks loose, and he looks at the artist, and they share, like, this arched eyebrow. It's like they have an understanding as to what they need to do. And then when he drops him off, and, like, Thunder nods to him, and he's just like, no problem, bro. It's like what the hell was that? Did they just form this bond in the last 5 seconds or something? This is amazing.
they had a bro moment, and that was the best part of the film because it reminded me of Bakano when Isaac and Miria do the thumbs up, and I'm just like, oh, that's great. But Doug, what do you think of the B plot?
So, I mean, the B plot does kind of repeat the first movie a bit too much. But I mean, ultimately, yeah, I mean, I do, like when it all comes together, and it's kind of like a car chase that's on par with the Shaggy Dog or the Shaggy DA. And I mean, it's pretty much kind of what you expect from the first movie, but then you've got like Martin Short's character in there as kind of like trying to stop everything. If I may say, from earlier we were talking about like the Lyra revealed plot, and it did kind of bug me how like Thunder would keep trying to tell Lucky, that he wasn't really a hero, but it's like either something would interrupt him, or Lucky wouldn't even really give him the chance because he's like, he's such a softie, he can't, tell, doesn't have the heart to tell Patch. So it's like, yeah, it was kind of annoying in that sense. But like I said, going back to like the B plot. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much kind of a rehash of the first movie, but it does end in a good way, and I do like Martin Short's character.
So yeah, what I think this film does well is it has two subplots that all are great character pieces that really help with existing characters and improve upon them, while introducing new characters that all have really interesting things to say. And so, while not perfect, I think what this does is expand upon something that we had before, and I really like that. But if I do have to say one thing, I feel like they should have at least done something with Pongo and Perdita and Roger and Anita, because they're barely in the film, and when they are there, they just forget that they don't even notice that Patch is missing, and they only get involved when the puppies are kidnapped again. And the only part where they realize that Patch is missing is when they see a Dalmatian in a newspaper, and automatically they think it's Patch, which I think is probably one of the weirder aspects of the movie.
Oh, can I rant about this?
Yes, go ahead.
So, Patch has to be the unique puppy out of all the 99 puppies there. 'Cause like, maybe you have Rolly, who's on the fatter side, but he still looks like all the other puppies. So why is it that like when they're doing the counting and everything, it's like he looks different from every other puppy? How did they not notice that Patch was not with them? I get it's overwhelming. There are 99 puppies to deal with, but he's so unique that you would notice if he was missing. It just drives me crazy. They wouldn't bat an eye.
I mean, I'm pretty certain if they didn't have to use like rotoscope for all the puppies, they probably would have looked different, which would have made more sense as to how he, could get lost in like the sea of all those dogs. But yeah, it is kind of bothersome given how differently he stands out. It's like those memes, in anime, spot the main character. But yeah, I mean, again, I can kind of see how, because it's a lot of dogs, they were moving, things are bound to get lost. I mean, heck, they kind of pulled a Home Alone with him falling asleep somewhere else and then everyone else leaving him behind or forgetting about him. So yeah, there was that. But yeah, the fact that they recognized him, it's like, well, it could be another Dalmatian puppy, but no, it has to be Patch. It's like, oh, we only just realized till this moment that, oh yeah, we haven't heard from him in the last day or so that we've moved. So yeah, that was kind of like plot convenience at work right there.
Oh yeah, and speaking of plot convenience, the fact that like Pongo, Purdy, Anita, and Roger, like immediately after seeing the newspaper with Patch on the front, they jump in the car and they drive off, and then they're gone for like how long? And then they conveniently show up at the end.
Yeah, it takes them like a full day to drive to London. Meanwhile, the Battens, Jasper and Horace, they manage to get to their plantation after they leave, kidnap the puppies, and beat them back to London before they can even make it there.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Yeah, on that point, also keep in mind, the Battens also put Nanny down the well, and yet she still gets there faster than Purdy, Pongo, Anita, and Roger.
Yeah, like, it's Roger's is like a really slow driver. He's like, I have to obey the speed limit. I don't care if this is an emergency. Or do they just, like, take the main road and get stuck in traffic or something?
I don't know. I think if they were really going to utilize this as part of the plot, they needed to have addressed it either sooner or give some sort of reason, like they knew he was gone. Like, it just... To me, that's the weaker part of the film, and it makes them look like bad parents when, in the first film, they went through hell and high water to rescue everyone. Not just their own puppies, but everyone. And now they can't even figure out which one is Patch. They should have microchipped collars, or if they didn't even do that back then, they should have at least put numbers on the collars and counted them one by one, not let the puppies come off. I get that they're puppies and they're not going to do what you say, but they have things in farms for this. It's called pens, and so you open one side of the pen, let one through, count him, move it in. Not that hard.
Oh yeah, and they even got new tags conveniently, and which is a plot device too.
Yeah, I love how somehow they have such high definition cameras, black and white cameras at that back then, that could actually zoom in on a dog's collar so you can see the very tiny print in which their address is labeled. Again, plot convenience.
So yeah, that's probably the bad part of the sequel. It's like, it fixes a lot of issues, and I still think it's a really great film. But in order to do that, it kind of just takes very big liberties with some of the characters. Like, honestly, the main cast of the original film are not that important in this. Jasper and Horace are important, but they're only there insofar as to just be more cronies for Cruella. It's really it's really Patch and Cruella who get the limelight, along with Lightning, Thunderbolt, and Martin Short. And that's fine, except for the fact that they dumb down some of the other characters to do it. So I still think this is a great sequel. It has problems, but in terms of story, I would say it's great, but problematic. Much like Cinderella 3. Great, still problematic. It's better than the original, I will give it that, but it's still got problems.
Oh, can I just bring up real quick how utterly incompetent Scotland Yard is in this?
Oh my god, yes.
Never mind the fact that Cruella only got off with probation for, kidnapping and attempting to murder hundreds of puppies. There's also the fact that when she decides to put her plan into motion to kidnap them again, she bails out the Battens and actually tells them, her plan in front of one of the officers who just do nothing but stand there. And in fact, the fact that they let a previous felon actually bail out her cronies is, questionable in and of itself. And then when the puppies get kidnapped again, and then they're in this really big car chase going down the main roads, and nobody stops them. Scotland Yard does not show up until the very end of the movie, after everything has been said and done. And even then, all they do is throw Cruella into the loony bin. It's What?
I'm maybe it's social commentary or something like that. All I know is that like when you're letting someone out of jail and you wait and see that this person is discussing their evil plan right in front of you, you probably should let these two people out of jail. Or at the very least, you should do something.
Should they do
should
something?
we do something? We should do something.
And after I eat these waffles, we will discuss my evil plan.
I see nothing wrong with this. You're free to go. So yeah, I think some of this is done for comedic effect, but it is problematic, especially because like when dogs are the ones solving every single problem in the city, like you gotta like look at yourself and say, are we the problem? Are Scotland Yard the problem here?
Yeah, because I mean, in the first one, at least they show them attempting to find the puppies, but logically they can't because they don't really have a lead anywhere. But yeah, in this one, they're just straight up incompetent, and it's kind of embarrassing, really. But then again, I guess they had to in order to make Patch look more heroic, because like in the third act, he gets he really goes all out. Like everything he learned from watching Thunderbolt, he puts into action. Especially that part where they're on the car and he takes down Cruella. That was really cool.
Yeah, like they do a good job making Patch look awesome and making Thunderbolt look awesome. Sometimes to the detriment of other characters, but then again, it's Scotland Yard, so who cares? Just let's take care of the badger on that guy's head. Dear God, there's a badger eating that man's head. Yeah, this is a funny movie. There's not too much else to say about the story. Like, it's, for the most part, I think it's really well done. It has its problems, but I think it's great. Character-wise, we already discussed a lot of the characters already. Just, looking back at the original people, Roger is pretty much the same as he was. Anita was pretty much the same as she was. Pongo and Perdita, kind of the same as they were, but they're not as proactive because Pongo is so overwhelmed by all the puppies that I can't really blame him. He's like sleepy 24/7, just trying to take care of all these puppies.
Well, you would be too if you had that many kids.
Yeah, that's why I don't have kids. So, I mean, like, our original cast don't really do much, neither does the nanny, but the main people that do stuff in this film, as we said, Patch, I think he is a fantastic character. I think he does a great job in this. We already talked about Barry Bostwick as Thunderbolt. He's an actor who wants to be a hero himself and actually kind of becomes one in his own right and has some great moments. Now, I do want to discuss, though, Jason Alexander as Little Lightning. First of all, I knew the moment he opened his mouth that this was familiar. Like, he sounded so familiar, and I'm like, where is that from? And Kat,
we were just looking at you like, how do you not know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they look at me and they're like, George Costanza, and I'm like, Jerry. Like, I knew it. Like, that is so funny. Like, the villain is George Costanza.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Serenity now.
What the hell are you staring at? Yeah, it's like, honestly, like, it's so weird. I understand why they added this character, because he serves as a catalyst for Thunderbolt going off on his own and his plot and his storyline intercepting with Patches. But it's weird because in the original, that character did not exist. Like, it was just Thunderbolt, and when you see that they just randomly added this other dog in there, it's like, he does nothing. He's just there. So I'm like, okay, so obviously this character's here as a plot device, and he's most likely going to turn out to be evil in the end. And sure enough, yeah, it's like he's all jealous because he doesn't get to do anything, and it's like, well, dude, you can kind of blame the writers on that one, because let's face it, like, if they gave you more to do, you probably wouldn't be complaining as much.
I think the big problem is that he's really not too essential a villain. Like, he has his comeuppance, especially because the police dogs take him away at the end, but he didn't really do anything too villainous outside of leaving the puppies with Cruella, which was kind of...
That was a dick move.
Yeah, that thing...
a dick move. Yeah,
Yeah, like, that thing... that plot point, like, I kind of wish they did that differently, had it so that he realized that the reason why he was never given a heroic role is because he himself never acted heroic, so it would have given him a chance to actually redeem himself and maybe, understand that Thunder's job is a lot more strenuous and demanding than he realizes. But instead they opt for him to be straight up evil, because it's like, yeah, on the one hand, he's leaving Thunder to his fate so that way he can get all the glory, but on the other hand, he knows that these puppies are gonna die, and he just leaves them there. Like, doesn't
in fact,
like he
he's
doesn't
the one who got them in the situation too.
Yeah, it's like you would think, oh well, maybe he'll use this situation to his advantage. He'll be the one to rescue the puppies, and then he gets all the glory. That never even comes to his mind. He just straight up abandons them, and then, yeah, he kind of, like, gets forced into the climax at the end when they just crash through the set, and he just gets swept up in everything. Like, that's pretty much beyond his understanding, but, oh well, it still serves as his comeuppance somehow. Like, it's really weird. I felt like they could have done a lot better with this character, honestly.
If they had taken out one of the villains, maybe had Little Lightning as a puppy that Cruella adopts or something like that, like... There's potential here, but I felt like something was wrong in that third act with him. And, like, if he had realized the error of his ways, that would have been much better. So Little Lightning, I think he's fun to watch, and he had a lot of potential, but I think a lot of it was kind of squandered. What do you think, Doug?
No, I definitely agree with that. I definitely think it would have been smarter for him to, instead of just, abandoning the puppies, actually, get Thunderbolt in trouble and then go and, himself reveal that he knows the location of the puppies. So he would get all the glory and Thunderbolt would, be kind of overlooked. So, I mean, yeah, definitely he was dumb in that respect, and he is kind of a wasted character.
So let's see. We talked about Martin Short. He's awesome. He's an eccentric artist. He's a lot of fun. Jasper and Horace are pretty much the same as always. Like, they don't do as much in this, but they're the same exact characters.
If anything, I'd say Jasper does a little more because he's forced to, like, dress in drag and everything like that. So I guess in that case, he's a little more active.
Which was really funny because I kept thinking of the Freakazoid scene where it's like, oh, I want to do that scene where we cut to this guy. He's like, I'm not wearing that dress. And then he cuts to wearing that dress. They do that exact thing where he's just like, I'm not getting in that dress. And then it cuts to him wearing the dress. And I'm like, this is funny.
And then he's like soliciting like a truck driver. And all I'm like thinking is like, wow, the hookers in London are really ugly.
And yet the driver is Suede. Go figure.
Oh yeah, one little tidbit I wanted to mention. Cruella's voice actress. I believe, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. It's Suzanne Blakesley. Yeah, she voices Wanda and Mrs. Turner from Fairly Odd Parents. And she also voices a lot of the female villains that you see in like the Kingdom Hearts series.
Not only that, but like there's a lot of big name actors here. Tara Strong is Two-Tone. You have Maurice LaMarche as Horace and Jeff Bennett as Jasper. You have Jim Cummings as the villain that Thunderbolt always fights. There's a lot of big names in this, and
there's Jodie Benson, who is our Little Mermaid, as Anita.
Which is where I recognize the voice. She sings when she sings a song, you're like, yeah, we just got Diet Ariel, because the song is not as good. But like, you can recognize the voice, and I think it's kind of funny coming out of Anita.
From what I read, a lot of the voice actors in this actually appear in the Dalmatian series. So it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Because I think the series takes place after this movie, right?
I think it's more the live action 101 Dalmatians that the animated series takes place in, or it's its own separate thing. It's kind of hard to say.
We'll have to wait and
Yeah.
see when we actually cover it, but from what I'm seeing here, lots of great voice actors. They all turn in fantastic performances. I had no problems with this dub. And while there is a different sound quality, because obviously it was like, 40 some odd years later, like this actually did a great job with its casting and making it feel like the original while still having its own identity, and they got a lot of good people behind it. I think the animation is great. Like you said, it was pretty much
so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, I already said my piece about it in the last thing, but yeah, in this context, like I know it's still considered second-rate animation given that it's straight to DVD, but honestly, when you compare it to the original, it just is so much better given that every character stands out a lot more and it's a lot more fluid, and they don't use freaking repeated scenes over and over again. I will say though, the only thing I was missing was the opening, because the first one I think still has the superior opening. The one in this, I don't
Yeah.
really remember the opening to this too much. It wasn't that memorable.
The problem is the opening, it doesn't have as great animation, but it's also the music, and I think the music is also kind of a downgrade. Like the songs in this aren't bad, they're just
There's no
they're
real
there.
songs. Yeah, they're just like
It's like,
background stuff.
Yeah, you got the song at the beginning where I'm seeing spots and them simultaneously singing Dalmatian Plantation, and that's really about it. It's like otherwise it's like you've got bits and pieces from Cruella de Vil and the Canine Crunchies jingle.
Speaking of which, I love the fact that we cut to Cruella. She's getting into her car that she has just basically duct taped together after the whole incident. And she turns on the radio, and Cruella de Vil comes on, and she kicks out her radio, and then her car falls apart. Like, that's the best.
I do love that scene. And it was actually like the original song too, which is even funnier.
Like, for me, I think this film is very clever. It's very humorous. It doesn't quite hold up in certain respects because I don't think the music or the opening is as good as the original, but there's so many things that elevate this above the original. And I still enjoy the original film, but when you really kind of pare it down, there's not a lot of driving conflict in the original outside of Cruella wants puppies. Here we have character development and we have a lot more going on. And yes, there are problems. Overall, I think what we have here is just superior. Like, it does take a couple steps back, but the dub is fantastic. The animation is better than the original movie. They do a good job illustrating these characters. And Cruella is just so much fun in this.
Like, honestly, they could just base the whole thing around her and I'd be entertained.
So, Kat, what are your final thoughts on 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure? And yes, that title's still stupid. Go on.
Yes, it is a mouthful. Yeah, I very much enjoyed watching this. It's been years since I saw this with my sister when it first came out, and at the time I didn't think it was nothing special because I still hadn't seen all the much worse things yet to come, and I was still a purist and thinking, oh, nothing can beat the original and everything. But looking back on it now, yeah, this is definitely among the more superior sequels Disney has put out, and it pretty much does what a sequel's supposed to. It serves as a logical conclusion, it offers closure, it gives characterization to characters that previously had little to none. It actually is funnier than the first one. It's a little less dark, but still it's action-packed. It keeps your attention. The pacing's pretty good. Like I said, there are a few like wasted potentials here and there, and they have a tired subplot, with the whole like liar reveal thing. But for the most part, I had a blast watching this again. I definitely rated among the more superior sequels. Like it's hard because it's kind of tied for me with Cinderella 3 because they're both very different sequels, whereas one is serving as a logical continuation, the other one serves as a retcon and fixes everything with the original. So it's kind of like it's hard to compare, but this still to me would probably be either my number one or number two so far if I were to ever make a list.
And Doug, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what's already been said is pretty accurate. Yeah, definitely I enjoy the art and how it's, very close to the original style. I definitely love all the actors, particularly like I think the fact that they got Patch to sound almost exactly like he did in the original movie. Very good touch there. And even though like a lot of the other characters don't quite sound as they did, it's close enough. Definitely enjoying,
From what I heard, they only used like two British actors in this, where the original cast was entirely British, so that might have like attributed to it.
Whatever, like I said, at least definitely with Patch, it was, close enough. So, like, it almost could be, confused with the original voice. So that was good. What you call it? Yeah, and I was saying Jeff Bennett and Maurice Malarch and Susan Blakesley were just great. And, of course, Martin Short as Lars. That does also make me say the fact that they used pretty much the same cast as they had in the original movie and only added 2, maybe 3 if you count Thunderbolt, despite the fact that he was in the original as like the television show, so that at least they're focusing on the right characters, and they don't add a whole slew of new characters that you're not going to care about. So yeah, definitely I enjoyed it. It's not without its flaws, of course, as I had my rant about it. But it's definitely a worthy successor to the 100 Dalmatians franchise. And yeah, that's about what I can say.
All right. So overall, I've already stated most of my thoughts. I definitely think this is a worthy sequel. Not perfect, but as far as Disney sequels go, this is pretty much a masterpiece compared to some of the other ones. I'm still not looking forward to Fox and the Hound 2. But like there's a lot worse coming forward, and for my money, this is tied with Cinderella 3 as one of the best. So I would give this a high recommendation. If you like the original, go see it. If you saw some of the problems in the original, go see it because it fixes them. And honestly, it's an enjoyable movie. It's clever. It's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it does take itself seriously enough to where you can really get behind these characters and this world. And I think overall, I highly enjoyed it. I recommend it. This is definitely one that is worthy of adding to the Disney classics, and it gets overshadowed a lot. But so far, in this 101 Dalmatian Marathon, we have had 2 great films. And so next time, we're going to delve into the live-action 101 Dalmatians with Glenn Close. And this actually does fix some of the problems of the original as well. I remember watching both of the live actions films when I was a kid, and I remember loving them. So it's been a while. I'm not entirely sure some of the plot points here and there. And so I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to react, but I think we're in for another treat. With that said, next time we're going to continue the 101 Dalmatians with the live action stuff. I'm Zenith Rule.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
I'm Doug Macberrie.
And we're gonna keep this Dalmatian train a rolling. We've got a Dalmatian plantation. We're seeing spots, and pretty soon we're gonna see a lady being baked into a cake.
Don't remind me. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Have a good one, guys. And just remember, even though some Disney sequels can be very, very, very bad, there are those that can surprise you, and this one certainly did.
Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/ZenithWillReview.